look around, we got inflation, we've got just a lot of uncertainty in the markets. We don't know what the federal funds rate is going to do. We don't know what the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, is going to be doing. And so there are all these variables that are going on. We've been living in this kind of like bubble of feeling very good, very secure about the way the world is going, the way the economy has been kind of growing and progressing since the 2008-2009 recession. And I think we're coming into a time where we're going to have a period where what you do to prepare yourself for the future is either going to accelerate your growth or it's going to hurt your growth, and it's going to take potentially a decade or more for you to make up for the mistakes that you make. So, hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and for this video, I want to talk to all you 20-something-year-olds or all you people that have 20-something-year-olds that are looking to get their financial life started off on the right foot. They're looking to figure out how to manage their money, how to get ahead of their money, how to understand their relationship with money, what they can do with their money to ultimately lead to financial success faster, how to implement a plan and a strategy to be able to invest for cash flow and to position themselves to be able to kind of weather any storm that is thrown at them in the economy. Look around, we got inflation, we've got just a lot of uncertainty in the markets. We don't know what the federal funds rate is going to do. We don't know what the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, is going to be doing. And so there are all these variables that are going on. We've been living in this kind of like bubble of feeling very good, very secure about the way the world is going, the way the economy has been kind of growing and progressing since the 2008-2009 recession. And I think we're coming into a time where we're going to have a period where what you do to prepare yourself for the future is either going to accelerate your growth or it's going to hurt your growth, and it's going to take potentially a decade or more, for you to make up for the mistakes that you make. So what this video is focused on is if you are young, if you are in your 20s and you're thinking about what do I do to get my career started, chances are you just started your career, you're just getting off the right foot, you're maybe got your first job, or maybe you got your first promotion, you're starting to make a little bit of money for the first time. And so you're concerned about, how do I invest? How do I save? How do I make a budget? What of this makes sense? What do I need to be focusing on to create more stability, more security, more guarantees, more opportunity, more control with my money? These are all the things that matter for your financial success. So let's get into it. All right, so first things first, let's talk about investing. I know one of the greatest myths, or I would call it lies, that's told in the financial industry is the younger you are, the more risk you can take. And while I understand the premise of that statement and that sentiment, because you're young, if you lose money, you have more time. You can make up for the losses by more sweat equity, more work, more time for your money to make up for you. But the bottom line is, it's a myth. It's kind of a lie. It's definitely a misnomer, because of the fact when you're young, if you understand the idea of compound interest, of accumulating money, the greatest interruptions to compounding interest are losses, right? And it can be losses through bad decisions and spending money and losing money unknowingly and or unnecessarily through financial inefficiencies, and I'm going to cover that. But it also has to do with market losses. And when you look at market losses in the markets, when you think about, I want to go take more risk, really all risk when it comes from an investing perspective, an increased chance of risk equals an increased chance of loss. And only in the financial industry do we tell people that the best strategy is to go increase your chance of loss to get your financial gains where you want them, right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So what I tell people is the younger you are, the less risk you have to take. And what is going to help you get where you want to go has to do with saving. Now, I'm not telling you that investing is bad. I'm just saying financial structure is going to be the key to your financial success. And what that looks like is you need to save before you invest, but you need to save with the intent to invest. And what does that look like? Well, I'm a big believer that everybody should be going out and positioning themselves to be able to be positioned to be a savvy investor. You look at people like Warren Buffett, right? Like, and I know he is the extreme example of this, but the bottom line is you look at somebody like him and he has liquid capital. He has these reserves. He can act like a good investor. The biggest challenge with Americans right now, and people in North America in general, is the fact that people are overinvested, they're over-leveraged, they have too much risk in the markets, they don't have enough savings over here in case of emergency, in case of opportunity. And so because all of their money that they think they have saved is really not saved, it's invested. So when the market goes through one of these downswings like we had at the beginning of COVID, like we had in 2008, like we had in 2000 during the dot-com bubble, like we're probably having again as interest rates go up and this asset bubble is kind of deflating a little bit, right? And it's correcting. As that happens, if you don't have this safe, liquid, accessible capital when it comes into those market environments, granted, you maybe felt really good for 4, 5, 6 to 10 years as the market bubble kind of inflated. When that bubble deflates a little bit and corrects, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that the economy is falling apart or that it's anything bad. It's a part of a natural cycle that our economy always goes through systematically. And so what blows my mind is that we know this happens on a systematic, predictable basis. So if we know that that's the case, why the heck isn't everybody in the world preparing for it? And why doesn't everybody have that systematic cycle built into their financial strategy? It's mind-blowing to me. And so what I love to teach people to do, especially in their 20s, is to pay yourself first, right? You need to pay yourself first. And what does that mean? That means you got to save money, and you got to save with the intent of investing. But by saving first, you're making sure that no matter what happens in the world, you have safe, liquid, accessible capital that is there for you for emergencies and there for you for opportunities. Now, whether or not you need it for an emergency will obviously be dictated on what goes on in your personal life. Maybe you have a job and it pays you really well, and when the market deflates a little bit, unemployment goes up. That's just what happens in these cycles. And so if you happen to be caught in the crosshairs and you lose your position and you can't get a job immediately, then it's something you need to look at, and you need to have an emergency fund to make sure that you are protected. Now, if you happen to be lucky and you have this money in this emergency fund saved up, what happens is, let's say you don't lose your job and you keep your job, and that's, you're insulated, you're protected, and you keep your cash flow going and your lifestyle isn't negatively impacted. Well, the beautiful part now is this pile of money over here, this pool of money that was sitting there for an emergency fund now becomes an opportunity fund. And it becomes an opportunity fund because of the fact that you have this cash flow coming from your job, and you're protected. But now what happens when the market deflates, when these bubbles deflate a little bit, is opportunity goes through the roof, right? People who have access to capital are prepared to take advantage of the opportunities, because think about it, in these markets, unemployment goes higher, foreclosures go up, car repossessions go up, asset prices shrink, right? Like assets shrink. So everything goes on sale. Stock market goes down, real estate values go down a little bit, assets go down all the way around the board. So everybody that has access to liquid capital in accounts, doesn't matter, as long as they're guaranteed and they can't lose money and you have liquidity of them, those accounts, the purchasing power of those accounts goes up, right? So maybe you have $30,000, maybe you have $40,000 or $50,000. It doesn't seem like a lot of money when the market is going crazy, but all of a sudden when the market starts to contract, now that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 has a lot more purchasing power, has a lot more leverage, and because you're set up to have access to capital in a world where 95% plus of the people are sitting in a position where they don't have access to capital, where their assets are losing value, and they have the majority of their money in qualified accounts like 401k or an IRA. And so in order to tap into that money, they got to pay taxes, they got to pay penalty to be able to access that. And so that compounds the problem of their losses, and they're having to liquidate negatively performing assets. They're going to have to pay taxes and penalty to be able to access it just to live and pay their bills. And so poor financial decisions are what keep people from reaching their financial goals. Poor financial behavior, poor understanding about their relationship with their money and what their money needs to do for them is what causes people to not reach success with their money, right? And so when you look at that, when you think about it from that perspective, now if you're sitting over here with a pile of money that's liquid accessible and you control it, now you can seek opportunity. Now you don't have to be fearful of what's going on because of the fact that you didn't lose money in this environment because it was guaranteed and you have access to it. You're able to think more clearly and you're able to take advantage of this opportunity because the 95% of the people are sitting over in this situation where they're losing. The 5% that are prepared for it, the opportunities go through the roof. And that's really what it's all about. So in your 20s, what I would say is your first goal is to get a year of income. A year. I know there's people out there that say get 6 months. I would say a minimum of a year and shoot for 2 years, because the reason I say 2 years is because of the fact that if you save a year, and that should be your first target, right? And if you save a year, what that does is it makes sure that no matter what happens in the market, if you lose your job, you're protected. You got that emergency fund. Now, if you don't lose your job, then you have an opportunity fund there. Now, let's say you lose your job and it takes you 6 months to find a new position. Well, now you got 6 months for an emergency fund and 6 months for an opportunity fund for income. And the opportunity that you're open to is always going to be relevant to your income, right? Like, unless you're able to save a real high percentage of what you have going on. And what I know is that wealth is created during these market downturns, during these cycles, right? At the end of these cycles, the boom bust cycles that happen year in, year out, or I would say decade in, decade out, they just happen. We know they're going to happen. So if you can keep your money safe during the upswing and guaranteed and beat inflation, and then on the downswing, when everybody else is losing, even though they felt like they were doing great during, the previous 10 years, if you can put yourself in a situation where you're able to capitalize in that downturn, that's where more millionaires were created in 2009, as an example, right? That is than any other year. 2009, more millionaires were created than any other year in the history. That was right after 2008. Now, a lot of people got hurt in 2008. So what that shows you is a small percentage of people that were able to take advantage of the opportunity that was created by a crisis is what leads to opportunity. I don't know about you, but for me, I'd rather save, keep my money safe, be able to mitigate my risks and control the environment that I'm investing in, and be able to build the foundation. Because listen, what I know is if you're in your 20s, this is something really that you have to understand. You got 40 years. Let's say you have 40 years. And I would encourage you to think maybe shorter term than that, and in investing for cash flow, and you can reach financial freedom in the next 10 to 20 years at the most. But let's just say if you follow the traditional plans that the financial world likes to tell you about, you got 40 years to plan for retirement. And if you're utilizing that 40-year time frame, you're going to go through 4 or 5 boom bust cycles. And so there's going to be 5 opportunities, 5 windows for you to really catapult your wealth forward. And so what it really is about is saying, you got to start in your 20s by building this foundation, by building the principles and the habits of paying yourself first, of saving, of seeking opportunity, of educating yourself, of doing everything you need to do to make sure that you build that foundation. So the first cycle that you have an opportunity for, maybe it's right now, maybe you miss this cycle, you save, you protect yourself, and you prepare for the next cycle. I don't know, but it depends on your current situation and ability to save right now. But the bottom line is, that principle, building those habits, is the key for your long-term success. And I think if everybody knew this, the financial world would be a completely different place. People would have more financial freedom. We'd have less dependency on government, and a lot of positive changes would be happening. But, that's neither here nor there, I guess, at this point in time. We are in the environment that we're in. And what I know is the people that actually do this the right way are going to be able to take advantage of a lot of opportunity. So at the end of the day, here's what I would say. You need to save in your 20s. You need to save with the intent of investing. Don't invest until you find the opportunity, and it's an investment that you can afford to take that risk on, right? So when you invest, you're taking on risk. And when you invest, you need to make sure that it is a long-term perspective. Never invest in anything that you can't just let it ride and let it take the cycles. If you need to liquidate that asset, if things get bad, if your cash flow dries up, then you should not invest in that asset yet. I'm a big believer to figure out what you need or can save, you need to build a budget. Anything measured improves. A budget is not about scarcity. It's not about limiting yourself. It's about being intentional with the money that you have flowing through your life and handling your personal finances like you would handle a business. Think about it. If you were to build a business of your life and your cash flow was revenue for your business, your income was revenue for your business, what would you do? You'd build a P&L for that business. You'd figure out what's coming in, what's going out. Do I have a positive P&L? And out of the liquid capital, the liquid cash reserves that we have left over after the expenditures for that business, what are we doing with that? We're going to save it, and we're going to save it to protect our business, to protect our life. And then when we have the opportunity, we're going to double down and we're going to invest that money when the time is right. And that's going to help our business grow faster. So think about your life, your personal finances, the same way you would think about business finances. And so save with the intent to invest, and make sure that you budget to figure out how much you have to save. That way you can be more intentional about what you're saving, and then build the habits to be able to invest more in a more savvy fashion, right? And that's what it's all about. So if you have any questions, go ahead and comment in the comment section below. I'm super passionate about helping people just reach financial efficiency, because listen, if you can focus on financial efficiency rather than chasing big rates of return, that's the biggest thing. People are told and lied to that we should take a small percentage, let's say 10% of our income, and chase these big rates of return. But the reality is you could take a bigger portion of your income, save it on a guaranteed basis, leverage efficiency, be more efficiency, stop losing money you're losing money unknowingly, unnecessarily through all these things going on in your life. Be more efficient with your money, put it through a system, and this is what I teach people, how to put it into a system, recapture that money, increase your wealth with that money, utilizing the right financial products that are going to give you liquidity, use, and control of that money, prepare you for opportunity so you can be more of an opportunistic investor profile, so you can start investing for cash flow, and that's going to help you reach financial freedom faster. And that's where financial freedom happens, right? That is what this is all about. That's where control and the self-empowerment of you reaching your goals comes in. And that's what I really love helping people do. So if you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. If you want to have a clarity call with one of the coaches on my team, go ahead in the comment section below, or in the description below. There's a link in there. Set up a free clarity call. There is no pressure on this call, like legitimately no pressure on this call. It's all about helping you understand how to accomplish your goals. That's what it's all about. Like at the end of the day, there's no financial product that's going to solve your problems, right? I don't care if it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, annuities, life insurance, whatever. There's no product that solves your problems. What it really is about is you figuring out and being intentional about where you want to go, and then reverse engineering a plan to get there for your specific objectives, and making sure that the product is in alignment with your values, your beliefs, and your objectives. And if you can align all that together, that's where a winning plan comes in. So go ahead and set up a call if you want to. Comment in the comment section below. If you haven't, make sure you smash that like button, and smash the like button and the subscription button, and click the bell. That way you get notified every time I launch a new video. And that's it. So I hope you found value in this video. Have a blessed, inspirational day. We'll talk soon. See ya.